I got home and reached for the sugar. Just hand went right to it. I don't take sugar. Haven't in 30-some years. I stood there with my fingers on the lid of that bowl, and I thought, when did that start? 4 days, that's all it was. I'm not sure how to explain what I went in there looking for. My son had been after me for a while. Not in a mean way, in the way people talk to you when they've already made up their mind and they're waiting for you to catch up. I'd hear it in how he said things. Dad, there are places, good places now, not like before. He'd say it like he was doing me a favor. So I told him I'd go look, just to look, 4 days. He seemed relieved in a way that bothered me a little. I've been in this house a long time, longer than most of the neighbors. Watched a lot of people leave, some in boxes, some in moving trucks, some just kind of stopped coming outside. And then one day the lights were different, and you knew. I noticed things like that. Always have. The back step has a crack in it I keep meaning to patch. 3 winters now. I step over it every morning the same way, same foot leading, and I've stopped seeing it. It's just part of how I move through the yard. The gate to the back fence has a latch that sticks if the weather's been wet. I know exactly how hard to lift it. Nobody else would. Things like that. A house gets into you in ways you don't notice until you think about leaving it. So when I walked into that facility, I was watching. The first thing I noticed wasn't the smell. People always tell you about the smell. I was ready for that. What I wasn't ready for was the televisions. One playing across the hall, another down the corridor, another from behind a half-open door. Not loud, just everywhere, like they'd decided that silence was the problem and they were fixing it all day without asking anyone. I unpacked my things. 1 bag, my razor, a sweater, a small kettle I'd brought because I wasn't sure about their coffee situation. Stood in that room and looked at the window. Parking lot, 2 cars and a dumpster. I stood there for a while, pretending those few things on the dresser might make the room feel partly mine. They didn't. The schedule was posted on the door. I read it a few times. Not because it was complicated. Breakfast at 7:30. Lunch at noon. Dinner at 5. Lights adjusted at 8. I've been eating when I'm hungry for as long as I can remember. I know that sounds like nothing, but I didn't know it was anything until someone handed me a piece of paper and told me when eating would happen now. I met a man the first evening, sitting at the dinner table, sharp-eyed, still carrying himself like someone used to being in charge of things. We didn't say much at first. Then he leaned toward me and said, "This place runs on bells." I didn't understand for another 10 minutes. Then I did. 1 chime for meals, a different one for medication, another to move people from one room to the next, and everyone moved, not because they wanted to, because the bell said so, and that was the next thing. He didn't seem angry about it when he said it. He said it the way you say something that used to bother you and doesn't anymore, which is its own kind of thing to see in a person. The next morning I woke before anyone. Same as always. For a second I didn't know where I was, just heard wheels on a hard floor and a voice in the hallway, very calm, telling someone breakfast would begin soon. I lay there and thought about my kettle, not in a sentimental way, in a specific way. The particular sound it makes when it's getting close, a low, uneven hiss before the rolling starts. I've had that kettle for 11 years. I know exactly what it sounds like at every stage. I don't know when I learned that. I just did. I thought about the spot between the counter and the table where the floorboard moves a little when you step on it. I've stepped around it for years and I still catch it sometimes, and it still surprises me slightly. I have never once thought about fixing it. It would feel wrong to fix it now. Instead, I had a small paper cup with a plastic lid. I drank it standing up because that felt like the only honest way to drink something that wasn't what you wanted. At breakfast, the man from the night before was explaining not loudly, just firmly, that he didn't want sugar in his oatmeal. The aide nodded. She was already at the next table. She set the bowl down in front of him and moved on. He looked at the bowl for a long time. Then he picked up the spoon and ate it. I've thought about that moment more than anything else from those 4 days. Not the sugar, the spoon, the way he reached for it. No argument left in the gesture. Just a man deciding without deciding that this particular thing was no longer worth the distance between what he wanted and what he had. Later I asked him what he missed most. I expected him to say his house or his car or someone he'd lost. Instead, he said, "My chair." Then he told me about it. A chair at his kitchen table where he sat every morning to put on his shoes. Same chair, same motion, same sequence. Left shoe, then right, then stand up. Every morning for he didn't know how many years. He sat with that for a moment. Then he said, "You don't know what part of yourself you've put into a thing until it's somewhere you can't get to." He didn't say it like he was complaining. He said it like someone who had been working on a problem for a long time and had finally gotten the answer, and the answer wasn't what he'd hoped. I didn't say anything back. We just sat there. The dining room was loud with the sound of other people eating, and a television mounted up near the ceiling showing weather for a city I didn't recognize. By the third morning, something had shifted in me that I didn't like. I woke before the lights, same as always. But I didn't get up. I just lay there on top of the covers with my shoes on. I'd started sleeping with them on by the second night. I don't know why. Force of habit, maybe, or something else. And I listened to the hallway. Wheels, a cart, voices starting up. I was waiting for the day to begin without me. At home, I'm the first sound in the room. I decide what the morning starts with. Some days that's the kettle. Some days it's just me standing at the back door looking at the yard for a few minutes before anything else happens. It's not much, but it's mine, that first decision, the one nobody else is involved in. In that room, on that third morning, I noticed that I'd stopped reaching for it. I sat up, put my feet on the floor. The carpet was thin, and the floor underneath it was hard and cold, even through my shoes. The window was starting to go gray at the edges. I sat there for a while and looked at the parking lot and thought about the man and the spoon and the shoes and his chair, and I thought, how long does it take? How long until you stop reaching for a thing and don't notice that you've stopped? I didn't know the answer. That bothered me more than the question. I'm not saying it was a bad place. The floors were clean, the people who worked there, most of them kind. Tired but kind. There's nothing to fault in that. But I watched what happened over the course of a day. A woman started a story at dinner, something about her sister, a trip somewhere. I didn't catch the beginning, and she stopped in the middle of it. Just stopped. Nobody asked what came next. She didn't finish it. She picked up her fork. A man down the hall had been trying to stand from his chair without the railing. I saw him at it the first morning. By the third, he'd stopped trying. I didn't see the moment it changed. I just noticed one time he was doing it and the next time he wasn't. He ate the whole bowl. Didn't look up once. There was a man who wrote letters every afternoon. Same table, same time, same slow, careful handwriting, long letters, like someone on the other end was waiting for every word. A woman had a cart of books near the hallway. She kept track of who had what. She'd stop you and say, "You look like someone who'd enjoy this one." She was usually right. My son drove me home on the fourth day. We didn't talk much. I looked out the window at a gas station, a church, a field with 2 horses at the fence. I looked at them for a long time. I don't know why the horses specifically. I just watched them until we were past. When we pulled into the drive, I got out and went straight inside. Put water on. Stood at the counter. Listened to the kettle working through its stages. And then my hand went to the sugar bowl. I stood there with my fingers on the lid. I thought about the man and the spoon. I thought about how 4 days is not very long, and about how much can happen in 4 days without you signing anything or agreeing to anything out loud. I set the lid back down. I didn't tell my son about it. He was standing in the doorway waiting to say goodbye, and I just turned around and told him the coffee was going to take a minute. He should sit down if he had the time. He sat down. Things are mostly the same here. Same routine. Same spots. I still check the back fence in the morning. There used to be a gap the neighbor's dog would get through, and that dog's been gone 2 years, but I check anyway. The latch still sticks when it's been wet. Some mornings I think about what that man said, about the chair, about not knowing what part of yourself you've put into a thing. I think he was right. I also think there's a part he didn't say, which is that you can still find out if you're the one starting the day, if you're still the one the morning waits on. I sit at this table every day. Same chair wobbles just slightly on the left side. I've been meaning to fix that for years. I won't. This morning I sat down, got my coffee the way I like it, looked at the yard for a while. Then I bent forward, tied my left shoe, then my right, got up, put the kettle on again. The day needed to start. I was the one starting it.